Today's lesson is going to be painting cats. This is Minnie the cat, and painting cats in watercolors is a little bit tricky because of the fur. So you want to do a lot of negative painting. So let's start, and this is the sketch of the cat. Before we start any painting, it's good to have a color swatch. So let's begin with the colors. Planning on the colors is really important in any sketch. Aureolin yellow for the background and as well as the eyes. Yellow ochre for the overall wash. Quinacridone burnt orange. Since it's difficult to pronounce, I'll just keep it simple. It's quin burnt orange. And if you don't have quin burnt orange, you can still use burnt sienna. This is burnt sienna. Mixing a little bit of red, pyrrole red. Ultramarine blue for the cool color. So we have aureolin yellow, yellow ochre, quin burnt orange or burnt sienna, pyrrole red, ultramarine blue. So now that we have the colors, let's start with the first wash. Starting with aureolin yellow on the lighter side, wherever the light is hitting on the cat, and using a lot of water to keep the values light in the first wash. So in watercolors, the key is start light and develop your darks, as it is difficult to erase in watercolor. Just getting more water wherever the lighter side is. Getting yellow ochre onto the middle tones. So the paper is dry. I am using wet paints. Using a lot of water to soften this edge, keeping it light. Moving the colors around, and you can switch your brush to the flat brush. This is a 1-inch brush. So it's good to use a big brush when you are covering large areas, so it remains moist. You are able to blend in other colors into the wet wash. Bringing more of the, changing my brush to the round, adding more of the yellow. Onto the tail. Yellow ochre. Now that I have the color, I switch to the flat brush and just blend in the colors onto the background. So adding more water to the colors lightens the value. Since we don't use white in watercolors, we leave the paper white or keep it a very lighter value by adding more water. So dropping a little bit more yellow ochre. And it's still wet. Picking up Queen Burnt Orange. You can use Burnt Sienna. Just dropping in onto the darker areas. And pulling this onto the background. Switching my brush to the 1H flat. And this is the first wash and it is very light. I will come back to the middle value once the paper is dry. So using Queen Burnt Orange or Quinacridone Burnt Orange, I go with these shapes around the tail and around the body. And soften the edges. Pull some of the color onto the tail. Just a lighter value. And adding some ultramarine blue to darken up some areas. So wherever not needed, just use your paper towel to lift it. When the paint is still wet, I pull some sharp edges showing the fur a little bit more. Leaving that to dry and coming back onto the bottom. So I have this dark edge. So starting with the dark edge. So you don't want to keep these shapes even, just break it in different directions. Softening this edge. So I started getting the form of the cat. We see a shadow there, so getting more of the darks, adding ultramarine blue, and getting the dark underneath the belly of the cat. You see the whiskers, you want to keep the whiskers much light. So painting around the whiskers, you can use the masking to keep it much easier. I prefer to go around the white areas. A lighter value, softening in between. So doing some negative painting, popping out the whiskers of the cat. getting yellow into the eyes, leaving the white spot. So when this is dry, we can come back and add the darker value onto the eyes.